Okay, well, I'm back, and I think, I talked about tools a lot, and I was starting to talk about definitions and stuff. It's kind of a beginner sort of video. So anyway, I started talking about hinges and steps and stuff and how problematic they are for new nappers. I thought I would just sort of hit a little bit while I talk just to do that. But I haven't hit yet today, so I'm bored anyway. The support is really important underneath. Support is basically where you use your hand, your non-hitting hand, to control everything on the rock. Number one, to hold the rock perfectly steady. Because when the rock doesn't move, then good things can happen with the flake. When the rock moves, bad things can happen. Because again, it's all about controlling the conchoidal fracture and predicting what it's going to do and getting it exactly to do what you want it to do. So if you can control the rock, then it is taken out of the equation as a variable and makes things sometimes go more like you would expect. A platform is either a natural area or something that you create that is angled and either has a protrusion or a flat area that's perfect for you to hit or push on to do what you want to do. And platforms are a critically important part of the process because to the extent that they're made or configured or natural to do exactly what you want done, then it's great. And if they're not, then you can't take the flake you want. In some places, you don't have platforms on a rock. Like this area right here, it's too steep. It's almost straight up and down. There's nothing for me to hit on here. So, but conversely, if I turn it over, there's a little angle protrusion right here that's good, maybe, to naturally hit, possibly. So that could be a natural platform. But a lot of rocks have natural platforms when you get them, and some don't. When they don't, then it's harder to deal with. It's harder to get into them. But anyway, that's what a platform is. There's another term that you'll hear a lot and that you should use a lot, especially when you are something you should use when you start out, is called an isolated platform. Isolated platforms are underused by a lot of people, including me. I tend to use power to make up for some of that, but the more power you have to apply to your rock, the more at risk your whole rock is, so it's easier to break stuff too when you don't isolate your platforms. But an isolated platform is when the thing that you're going to hit or push on is set up to release even easier by removing a couple of flakes the opposite direction on either side and making like little knife edges on either side of your isolation of your platform. Because what that does is it makes so that when you hit it, the crack starts on those little knife edges that are out of the way, and it starts easier and it runs longer, so you can get a better flake. But also, it puts less shock on the whole piece because it starts easier. That's called an isolated platform. And this rock really isn't set up for me to show you right now what an isolated platform is, but I will at some point. I need to hit it. I haven't hit it yet. That was not a good hit. Let me hit it again. Okay, so I controlled that underneath, with the support finger that was already there, and it kind of just broke off a little edge here, and then that was a high spot, so I ran up into there. I don't even know what I'm doing. This is, I shouldn't even be talking. I shouldn't be hitting. I ought to be, what should I be doing? This rock annoys me with its complete worthlessness, so I need to do something here. I'm going to do a big hit here and see if I can just obliviously knock off a bunch of crap. Nope. Nope. Give me a moment. Nope. Okay. Why did that not do anything? Well, you got to analyze it. You got to figure it out, because if you don't know, then you can't get into your rock. Well, first of all, I've got hard cortex. I've got a relatively soft, worn lead-filled bopper. I've got a steep really not even a platform. There's no isolations. There's been nothing to do to improve it. And you can see copper smeared all over it right there. So what can I do to fix that? Well, a number of things. One of the things I can do is I can turn it over. Now, this is above the center line. I haven't talked about center lines. The center line is an imaginary line that goes right through the middle of your rock. It's extremely important. The reason it's important is all your platforms that you hit need to be below your center line normally. The reason for that is if they're not below your center line, if you hit anything above your center line, then you're putting bending forces downward on your whole preform thing, and it has a tendency to make the thing break in half and fold right there. So you don't want to hit above the center line. The distance of the platforms that you find or that you make determine the thickness of flakes that you can take off. So when a platform is way down near the face, the face part of the rock, it's going to make a really thin flake. When it's up closer to at the center line, it's really hard to do anything with other than hit more at a downward angle, which in itself puts some degree of bending forces on it, unless you're supporting it really well. But kind of in between the center line and the surface, you can get some pretty thick flakes by hitting stuff there. So what can I do if I say I wanted to, I didn't get my flake on there? Say I wanted to get my flake on here. What can I do? Well, what about if I turn this over and hit it to knock off a flake to get rid of the hard cortex and then hit it? Will that work? Well, yeah, it might. But hang on a second. I don't have a platform here. I've got a flat area on top of this thing, and it's way above the center line. So what can I do? Well, how about if I change the angle here and go like this and hit down? Well, this is definitely lower now, and if I'm hitting down, it's just going to try and cut through it and make a fairly short flake anyway. So let's see what happens on that. Okay, so I hit down and it broke. So there it is. So what does it look like? Well, I've got an angle there and there's a freeze crack in it, dang it. But what I want to show you is, so now I'm going to braid to get this knife edge off. So the knife edge is off. Now I'm going to turn it, and I can hit. When you're trying to make thick flakes, a lot of times you can ignore your edge, and instead of hitting on the edge, you can hit above the edge. And you can drive in at an angle that cuts through and makes a thick flake and runs through without even touching the edge. But just in case, I want to teach you something just in case. Always try and pretend as if you might miss and hit your edge, even when you don't intend to. And go ahead, maybe and raise it a little bit. And stiffen it a little bit on the off chance that you hit it, because if you hit the edge and it's way down super low, you're going to cause a step underneath. And the more of a knife edge it is, the more likely it is. I've got a freeze crack right there, so I really can't hit this where I was going to intend to show you to go back and hit right exactly where I hit before. But I kind of can. I'm going to put some power into it. I'm going to do 2 hits here. Do a hit there, which this is thin, so that's not really going to help me a whole lot. And then do a hit there, and there's a little concavity here, so that might be a problem. Hitting into a concavity normally doesn't work. It causes a step. Ooh, I wanted to make a step anyway. Oh yeah. Let me make a bad step here, maybe. Ah, look, a step. See this step right there? Bad step. You may end up dealing with a fair number of those if you're starting out. It's one of 2 things normally. Well, if you don't prepare your platform well and make it nice and strong, then the step can be caused by the platform kind of failing as you hit it, and it takes away your energy, and so the flake doesn't run all the way through and it steps out. That's one thing. Another thing is that you just didn't hit it hard enough in the first place, and so instead of going all the way through and cleanly exiting, it steps out. The third thing is that when you're new, you're not good at reading your surfaces, and you hit into a concavity. Flakes like to run along ridges and slight convexities. They do not tend to run into concavities, because it goes in a concavity and the energy dies in the concavity, because the only way for the energy not to die in the concavity is if you drove it all the way through your big old thick rock, which is hard for some people to do, so it just absorbs it like a baseball glove, and it just, stops it, and it hinges out. So there's a hinge. So how do you fix hinges? Well, the best way to fix them is not make them in the first place if you don't have to. And so if you read your surface right and you know that you've got something that'll run and you hit it hard enough, then you won't have the hinge. But if you do have the hinge, the way you never fix it is by hitting into it. There's a couple of things can be done. You can attack it from the sides. You can attack it from the opposite end or edge or whatever, and go across and take it out that way. Or sometimes, if you're good, you can set your platform higher, hit higher, and go all the way through with enough energy this time underneath it, where you actually run underneath it and cut off more rock and get rid of it that way. Those are your options, basically. Sometimes it's better to just leave them and wait until you further reduced your rock and get your rock down smaller and closer to the problem and stuff. Anytime, you've always got a better chance of success if you're closer to your problem. I had just a little bitty nub there, and I got a crazy thought. I'm going to go ahead and take this off, because you try and get weight off your ends. So that came off, and when I did, I blew a big overshot here, and I took off half of that hinge with it. I'm going to abrade that a little bit. But then, I had I braided this little nub, and I'm just going to go ahead. I see a little rise here. I've got a little bit of thickness here and stuff. That little nub, and that thing just looks to me like I might be able to actually cheat. It's almost like climbing a rock face or something, trying to get a toehold on something. I might actually be able to just hit that and try and undercut and take that hinge off. I don't know if I will or not, but then I'm going to stop after I do it, because this is not making much sense today. Well, that was embarrassing. So anyway, that hinge is now gone, and so we're sort of, starting this rock out. Where am I at? I'm at 13 minutes. See a lot of benefit to this. So I got a big rounded area here. I can't really hit that, so what I'll do is I'll just come back, take it off, and now it's not rounded anymore. And I had that down enough to do it at a real steep angle, because I want to flip back, and I want a steep angle, because what I was wanting to do is just hit like along here and drive right in through here and take out some of that. And I'm supporting it at the back edge with my finger and on the sides, and I'm putting this up here because I can't reach that far with my hand. And see, it came down to there, and it started to go in and undercut. I knew it was going to dive right there, so I didn't hit it any harder. A little bit of an old freeze crack right in there. Sometimes you just got to do what you can do, and then come back from the other side and do a little bit of good from this end on the thinning the other way. This is kind of, I was going to say it's interesting, but it's not all that interesting. I can come from the side of this and try and knock that down and create myself. It's going to be sharp, which I don't like, but just to kind of get myself an angled platform to try and get rid of some of this thickness and mess. Dang. See how that just kind of came in and blended into what I did over there and removed a little bit of that thickness. This is certainly not worth showing you. But I've got, you know what, I'm going to do one more. I've got a, it's thicker on this side now, since I lowered the other way. I'm going to hit this and I'm going to leave you alone for a while. That's the issue right there. So anyway, brought that down a lot. Then I need to come back and do it again through here and just keep doing it, flatten this. And then once I get this good and flat, start trying to work the other side. And I probably won't continue with this. I mean, this is I just grabbed this rock. I don't know why I grabbed this rock before I just doing the tool tapes and stuff like that. But anyway, my rambling is terrible. So I'm going to tell you bye, and I'm going to go see if I can find some lunch. Right? It's supposed to be cold tomorrow, so I'm not going to be doing anything for a couple more days. But hey, you know, it was like 78 yesterday here, February 14th. Yes. Do not move south. There's enough of us down here already. There's like 6 million people around me. Bye. Freeze crack.